Eeyore sleeps on it is a nice idea, but there is one thing about it that I think was done very, very badly, or I guess not done at all. And I will explain what I mean by that, so there will be spoilers as I talk about what happens in this episode. This is the second segment of the 19th episode of the first season of My Friends Tigger and Pooh. And Eeyore is asleep nowhere near his house. And they quickly realise he must have sleepwalked. And the super sleuths decide to camp out next to Eeyore's house at night, so if he sleepwalks again, they can monitor him. And of course, he does sleepwalk. And they don't really know why this is. There's nothing apparent that would be triggering this. And this is the thing that I have an issue with, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. But what I did like about this, credit where it's due, is that initially they were trying to find a way to stop Eeyore. And Tigger said that you're not meant to wake a person when they're sleepwalking, which is, it's one of those things that's questionable advice, but I think the general consensus is that while it's not necessarily harmful for them, if you wake somebody when they're sleepwalking, they're going to be quite confused and disoriented. So it's better to not do that. So that's pretty decent advice. And I think also just making young viewers aware of the concept of sleepwalking could be really helpful, particularly if either they sleepwalk or they have a sibling, for example, who sleepwalks. I can imagine that could be quite scary. I don't think I've ever encountered a sleepwalker, at least while they're sleepwalking, and I imagine it would be quite scary, particularly for young children. So I like the fact that it's making them aware of this as a concept and giving them some tips on maybe how not to handle the situation. So that's all well and good. But then they decided that actually, instead of just finding a way to stop him sleepwalking, they should try and work out why it's happening, which I think is a great approach because it's easier to stop it if you know why it's happening. And the why was interesting, but very badly executed. So this is the big spoiler, and I'll explain what I mean by this. So it turns out that Eeyore was attracted to Porcupine's flute. And whenever the flute music was played, in his sleep, he would walk towards it because he wanted to listen to it. I don't know if that's something that would actually happen in real life. I've got no idea. If it would, that's pretty fascinating. But the problem is that we can't hear the music. And I actually, once we came to that conclusion, I actually went back in the episode to listen again, just in case my ears hadn't picked up on it. But it's not there. And that means that it just doesn't make any sense, because if Eeyore would be able to hear the music in his sleep, the super sleuths would have been able to hear the music, we the viewer would have been able to hear the music, and it's not there. And it's not like playing the music would have given it away too quickly. And I feel like it would have been one of those once you know it things, where if you look back, you can then hear it and connect the dots and it makes perfect sense. But I went back and I couldn't hear it, and it doesn't make any sense. So I feel like that's really terribly executed. There is some music when Eeyore is moving, but it's most certainly not the flute music. It's not consistent. It's nice enough. I have nothing against the music in this episode. But if you're going to say that Eeyore was attracted to the flute music, you need to make sure that Eeyore can hear the flute music. And that just wasn't happening. So I feel like they actually did a really terrible job of that, and they could have fixed it just by playing the music, even if it was soft and faint, and then maybe gradually getting a bit louder as Eeyore approached it. But they just didn't bother, and I feel like it was very, very weak. So a nice idea for an episode, but unfortunately not a great execution. I got too annoyed by it. I didn't love it.